In what sense are you a scientist right now? You see, the problem is when you think of scientists, who do you think of? Chemistry, biology, lab coat. But when I think of scientists, you know who I think of? Computer scientist, psychological scientist, what I call a design scientist. So what are three things you're doing right now in everyday life that are actually what scientists would do? And recognizing that means that you can be better and better as a scientist and then make better decisions that have impact. Number one is when you say things to yourself to manage stress. What you're doing is you're actually making intervention, like an action, like self-talk, without even realizing it. Like, calm down is option A. Option B is, this stress means I'm pushing myself. Option C is, let's go on Instagram. So why are you being a scientist here? Because a psychological scientist, a computational scientist, what they study is cause and effect. And in particular, I would say someone like a computer scientist often wants to solve problems or design things. So for example, a psychological scientist might say, what is the cause and effect? What's the mechanism? What's the process that goes in my head when I try and tell myself to slow down and not be stressed? That's like an area, for example, a clinical psychologist might think about that, a cognitive psychologist, social psychologist. Now, what will a computer scientists do? Well, computer science is really about solving problems, right? Loosely speaking, I'm sure a bunch of computer scientists would jump on me. I would jump on myself, but let's just say it's about solving problems. So then the question is, which option is going to be most effective at reducing my stress? Which option of those three messages, calm down, this means I'm excited, go on Instagram, will be most effective at getting me to get stuff done? What are the impact, right? So you see, we're actually already always doing these things, right? We're always trying to intervene to change our behavior, often using technology or using some strategies. We often have these intuitive kind of theories, these hypotheses that, underneath calm down is the idea that, like, when you're stressed, telling yourself to calm down will have a causal effect on helping you realize that you don't need to be stressed. Well, we've been there, right? Clearly that hypothesis is not very plausible, but the problem is we keep using it. Option two, right? When I'm stressed, it means I'm excited, is based on hypothesis that actually we want to reframe from distress, right? Like we're stressed out, into what's called eustress, positive stress. That like, hey, you're stressed because you're excited about that presentation. You want to do a great job. You're kind of getting rolled up. You're like that Olympian athlete who's stressed before they dive off the podium. It's going to race down the street, race down the pool, and like swim 100 meters in record time. They're stressed, right? Turning distress into eustress can happen by saying I'm excited. And actually I can cite a study. You can look up the book Adam Grant, Originals. I think in the last chapter, he's got actually some studies on that. So does that make sense to everyone? That was a lot, I know. But just to say one more time, what do you all take away from that? Whenever you are talking to yourself or saying something to yourself, trying to have an impact, you're acting at least as two kinds of scientists. One is a psychological scientist, right? Because you are entertaining some hypotheses about cause and effect, about how you think, about how you feel. Second is what I would think of as like a computer scientist or design scientist, in the sense that you're trying to solve a problem, right? You're trying to take an action that will improve the state of the world, an intervention. And this is often done through technology these days, but even if it's not technology, it's still the approach, right? And so that's helpful because recognizing that you're acting as a scientist in these moments makes you ask yourself, well, if I'm being a scientist here, I'm trying to use knowledge about the world to have an impact. I'm trying to figure out cause and effect. Which hypotheses about how people think or feel are more or less appropriate for the situation? Which actions are more or less going to have particular kinds of impact? Well, then why don't you look and see how other scientists are doing it, right? You're a citizen scientist which is doing, contributing science in a way, applying science. Look and see how actually different kinds of professional scientists are doing it. Go on Google Scholar, right? Look up, effective techniques for managing stress. Scholar.google.com, stress management techniques. Now, of course, it's hard to find things, so you can also go to scientists. I will offer my website because I'm so generous and so kind. josephjwilliams.com, josephjwilliams.com/papers. We've got a ton of papers there, right? Look up for one that actually has eustress in the title, EUSTRESS. Look up for one that's about, stories, STORY. Look up Story. It's by Bhattacharjee as the first author. And that tells you about messages or stories you can send yourself to feel more positive or handle stress better. And when we cite people in there, you don't have to trust us. You might agree or disagree with parts of it. Look at who we cite. Look up their websites and see what papers they published. Take away from this. What do you find interesting about this? If someone asks you, what did this video do for you? What's the insight you had? What would you tell them? That awkward silence is for you to think about this and reflect. Question. What's your hashtag next step? What's one thing you could do differently after this? Like after watching this video, right? Are you gonna Google something, send it to someone, make a calendar event and say, did I read a paper about stress the next time I was stressed? Did I look up a book like Cognitive Behavior Therapy for Dummies or How of Happiness? Or did I look at Joseph's website and see what is relevant there? It's all there for free. Scientists give their knowledge away for free, you know? You don't have to pay for it. You don't have to like hire a coach for $100 an hour. Look at the papers and see if they're actually practical. I think they are. They're just often buried. So tell me, if you look at a paper and you're like, Joseph, what the hell was this about? Tell me, Joseph, I didn't see how this is relevant at all. Here's a screenshot of this thing. It made no sense to me, this paragraph. I will record a post just for you on how you can apply that to everyday life. So, what's your next step? What will you do differently after this? What's one observable action you're going to take? Have a great day.